Hey folks, this is Kelani. If you're waiting to see if patch 8.2 is worth coming back to the game for, or if you just love having all of your alts polished up and ready for whatever comes our way, then the new Nazjatar zone in patch 8.2 might give you something to be excited for. There's a whole new system being introduced to help you catch up when it comes to item level and character power, and it actually goes pretty far. These are the new Benthic items, and just in case you thought Blizzard pulled another name out of their netherrealm, Benthic is an actual word. According to Dr. Google, the Benthic zone is the ecological region at the lowest level of a body of water, such as an ocean, lake or stream, including the sediment surface and some subsurface layers. That sounds exactly like the entirety of the Nazjatar zone, so I guess the name makes perfect sense. It shouldn't surprise you then when I say that the Benthic gear can only be acquired in the Nazjatar zone, but don't worry, if you like the look of Mechagon, we'll have a few pieces to pick up from there as well. So what is this Benthic gear, where does it come from, and why should you care about it? Let's start from the top. Benthic gear exists as tokens that you can open up to give your current character a piece of gear with the appropriate armor type. The tokens don't have an armor type, so the belt token used on a warrior will give you a plate belt, and that very same belt token used on a priest will give you a cloth belt. So it's not quite like some of the other armor tokens we've seen in places like the Timeless Isle, where every armor class had its own unique token for each slot. This streamlines the process in a really nice way. Each slot has very specific pieces of gear tied to it as well, so there's no random stats to worry about like there is with crafted gear. Some pieces have more than one option. The Cloak, for example, has 4 different variants, which I assume can be obtained by anyone, and there are a handful of other slots which have more than one resulting armor piece. That gives us quite a little bit of variety, and more pieces of armor might be added in before this goes live. Right now, there are a few slots which only have one result. For example, if you use a belt token on a cloth user, you'll get the cloth Nazjatar cinch every time. That belt will always have crit and versatility, no matter how many times you open a belt token. It also will come with a special effect. You do increased damage to aberrations in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. Just a quick note, the world boss in Nazjatar is an aberration, and there is one boss in the raid which is an aberration as well, so you might actually get some use out of this seemingly very niche item. So yet another source of gear with some potentially interesting, if not quite minor, special effects. This started with the Crucible of Storms gear and is continuing with a lot of loot from the Mechagon dungeon and from the Eternal Palace raid as well. The bonuses tied to Benthic gear are specifically tailored for the Nazjatar zone, with a small amount of crossover into the new raid. Each slot shares the same special effect across armor types, so plate belts will have the same effect as the cloth belts. That means everyone should have access to every special effect, and because of this there aren't too many in total, so let's have a look at what we're dealing with. The first cloak we have will reduce the frost damage you take while in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace raid by 2%, getting some resistance gear back into the mix. The second cloak gives you a random chance to loot some fish from creatures in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace, so just in case you didn't fancy fishing at all, but you still need to make some feasts for the new raid, because we all need that, let's be honest, this cloak has you covered. Potentially, the fish are random, so who knows. The third cloak increases your health gained when resurrected by 30% while you're in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. Maybe a bit too niche, that one, but sure, I'll take it. And this last cloak is a bit more mysterious. You have access to the Murloc Traders' special stocks. There are some Murloc traders in the Horde Hub who have some interesting wares for sale, including a flatulent fish. Yep, it farts. Thank you for that one, Blizzard. I wonder what this cloak will unlock though. Moving on, the Benthic boots will reduce your falling damage in both Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace, which could save your life a few times. Actually, let me tell you, Nazjatar's verticality can prove to be a bit of a problem sometimes. One pair of gloves we have gives you a higher chance to find strange resources related to Mardivus. This could potentially be very important, as there's a little minigame type thing tied to this Mardivus character, but I don't think it's fully fleshed out yet. If that ends up being important, then these gloves will be as well. There's another pair of gloves which reduce the shadow damage you take by 2% while in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. Put those together with a frost resist gear and we can almost pretend like we're back in vanilla. We also have some leg pieces. Your speed is increased by 53 while in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. Come on Blizzard, crank it up to 100 at the very least, and let's at least feel the speed increase if you're going to put it there. Another leg piece up next, you are 5% larger while in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. Fantastic. Something for all you Tauren to hunt after to make sure you can block every doorway instead of just the small ones. And then we also have some bracers. Another frost resist piece here, reduce frost damage by 2% in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. I wonder if this stuff could actually make a difference in the raid. And the last piece of gear to look at right now is another pair of bracers. Your swim speed is increased in Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace. Not sure how good that will be in the actual raid, but there are some underwater areas in Nazjatar where this could prove to be somewhat useful. We already had a quick look at the belts at the start, and the only other pieces that come from Benthic tokens is Azerite armor for helm, shoulder and chest slots. That Azerite armor doesn't seem to be finished right now, as the Azerite traits are copied from older zones instead of being new ones relating to the Nazjatar zone, so we might have to revisit those pieces later on. So, some fun and potentially useful effects on this gear, and as you've probably noticed by now, all of the Benthic items start at item level 385. That's a pretty good item level for a relatively easy to obtain token. When we had our first little glimpse of the system, I assumed this gear would start at 370 alongside the new crafted gear, but it looks like you'll be catching up to your mains a lot faster than we anticipated. But perhaps the most important question we need to answer is, where do these tokens come from? It doesn't really matter what item level they provide if we can only get one token every other week. It seems like we'll have a variety of sources for the new Benthic armor tokens. The most reliable source though is going to be from one of the vendors that uses a new currency specific to Nazjatar. You can buy any token for any slot that you wish, and it will cost you 5 prismatic mana pearls. Now the main issue with buying tokens like this is that your upgrades for the Benthic gear are also purchased with the mana pearls, so you might have to decide between getting another piece of gear by buying another token, or upgrading something you already have. Thankfully, you can also get Benthic armor tokens from world quests as a straight up reward. That does rely on the world quest being active and rewarding a Benthic piece to begin with, and the reward is going to be a bit more random when compared to buying tokens from a vendor because it's going to give you an armor piece, not necessarily pearls, but at least you will save a few mana pearls in the long run. As for the upgrades, you have a few stages that you need to work through. The first upgrade available is the Ajaran Pearling Kit. This one costs 20 mana pearls and will upgrade your Benthic armor into pearled armor, bumping it up to item level 400. That's the equivalent of heroic Battle of Dazar'alor gear right now, so a pretty good item level for any alts that haven't been kept up to speed. We can go a bit further than that though. The Ajaran Pearling Enhancement upgrade will bump your armor up another 5 item levels up to the cap of item level 430. So you'll be able to do that 6 times in total, but each 5 item level increment will cost you another 10 mana pearls. It's worth noting that item level 430 is currently the same item level as the new raid loot on heroic difficulty, so you could gear yourself up pretty well with the Benthic and Pearled gear sets. You can do the same thing with your Azerite armor pieces, but because they only exist in increments of 15 item levels, for balancing's sake, you'll have to purchase a different upgrade item, the Ajaran Azerite Pearling Enhancement. This just bundles 3 upgrades into one, so your Azerite pieces will go from 400 to 415 and then eventually to 430, but each upgrade token costs 30 mana pearls. I haven't seen any other sources of these upgrade tokens thus far, so they might only be available from the vendor using this new currency. Because we're still kind of early days with the Nazjatar zone, a whole bunch of things could change, but I would love to see both the Benthic tokens and the upgrade items available from a wider variety of activities in the zone, even if they're given a relatively low drop rate. That way you can still work towards the things you want using the Mana Pearls currency, but getting a lucky drop once in a while can speed up your projected gearing plans. Seeing as this entire catch-up mechanic is entwined with the Mana Pearls currency, let's see how we can get our hands on some of these shiny balls. balls. You have a variety of daily content you can complete in Nazjatar. Obviously, there are a few world quests on the map every day. Some of these can reward mana pearls, so there's a really easy, straightforward source for you. You can also pick up some old-style daily quests. These also sometimes reward you with mana pearls, and then you can also get a variety of daily quests relating to your chosen follower, which will sometimes throw you a mana pearl or two as well. I've gotten at least 5 a day in Nazjatar so far, which equals 1 new piece of gear every day, or an upgrade every other day. That's not all too quick, which might be the point, but I can't help but feel like a few things are missing right now. There are a lot of special activities in this zone. Random daily quests plop down in the middle of nowhere, unique mining nodes with special events, the strange laboratory that lets you summon strange elementals. I think these events will also be tied to acquiring mana pearls, because they seem to be a little too rare right now, especially when you consider that the new Benthic armor system is just one of the many things tied to the mana pearls currency. You also have mounts, pets, and a variety of other reputation-based rewards which require these pearls, and some of the Heart of Azeroth essences as well. So I guess the plan is to include some of the daily or weekly events in the source of mana pearls, and then I wouldn't also be surprised if 1 or 2 mana pearls also drop from rares by the time this zone goes live. I think the main point of how the zone is set up is to pick up your daily quests, complete the world quests on the map, but more importantly, those activities get you out into the world where you'll see more quests, rares to kill, treasures to open, and events to complete. If they didn't reward you for doing those other activities, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. Mana pearls are a great way to reward you for that. The entire catch-up system in Nazjatar revolves around this new currency, so that's going to dictate how quickly you can gear up at the end of the day. With what I've experienced right now on the PTR, it does seem fairly slow, but I can very clearly tell that large portions of the zone just aren't finished yet, so this will likely change by the time the patch goes live. As a quick note, it looks like we'll need 150 mana pearls for the new mount, 80 mana pearls to get an essence up to epic, 75 to get the legendary rank of those essences as well. And I doubt they want the mount to take several months to farm without using mana pearls on anything else, so I don't think it's crazy to say that this will be sped up quite a bit on live servers. You may have noticed that rings, trinkets and weapons are not covered by these tokens, but that's where Mechagon comes into play. All of those slots will be covered by the Mechagon zone and dungeon, so you'll have plenty of reasons to take part in both new zones when patch 8.2 comes around. But that's how the catch-up gear system in Nazjatar is working so far, how you can get your hands on the new Benthic gear and how to upgrade it to the Pearled versions to eventually get up to that 430 item level. What do you think of the special effects on the new pieces of gear? Do you think being able to upgrade Benthic gear, this token gear from Nazjatar, all the way up to heroic Eternal Palace item level is too far? Is that a bit too far? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.